You're climbing a flight of stairs, the same stairs you've walked up 1,000 times before. Halfway up, you notice something different. Your breath has become shallow and quick. By the time you reach the top, you need to pause, to catch your breath, to let your heart rate settle before you can continue with your day. Or maybe you're playing with your grandchildren in the backyard, chasing them around the garden like you used to. But after just a minute or two, you find yourself winded, hands on your knees, trying to fill your lungs while they're still running circles around you, full of endless energy. You might laugh it off, tell yourself it's just a sign of getting older, that this is simply what happens with age. But what if I told you that how you breathe, the patterns and rhythms of your respiration, are actually revealing something far more significant? What if your breathing isn't just responding to exertion, but is actually broadcasting the true biological age of your body, independent of the number of years you've lived? Welcome to Elderly Discoveries. Today, we're diving deep into one of the most fundamental acts of being alive, something so automatic you rarely think about it, yet so revealing that scientists are now calling it a vital biomarker of aging. We're talking about your breathing. Not whether you're breathing, but how you're breathing. The rate, the depth, the efficiency, the adaptability of your respiratory system. Your breath is telling a story about your cells, your heart, your muscles, your mitochondria, and ultimately, how fast or how slow your body is truly aging. And the most remarkable part? Unlike your chronological age, which ticks forward with absolute certainty, your biological age, as revealed through your breathing, is something you have the power to influence and even reverse. Let me introduce you to Margaret. Margaret just turned 68, but if you asked her how old she felt, she would have told you somewhere closer to 80. She had spent the last few years gradually withdrawing from activities she used to love. She stopped going to her water aerobics class because she felt too breathless in the pool. She avoided walking to the local shops, even though it was only 3 blocks away, because the slight uphill section left her gasping for air. She started making excuses to skip social gatherings that involved any physical component. Her family noticed. Her friends noticed. But Margaret herself had convinced herself that this was normal, that this was just what 68 was supposed to feel like. After all, her mother had slowed down around this age too. Then, during a routine checkup, her doctor did something that changed everything. Instead of just checking her blood pressure and listening to her heart, the doctor asked Margaret to perform a simple breathing test. She sat Margaret down comfortably and asked her to breathe normally for a minute while measuring her resting respiratory rate. Then, she had Margaret do a gentle 6-minute walk test around the clinic hallway, and immediately afterward, measured her breathing rate again and tracked how long it took to return to baseline. The results were eye-opening. Margaret's resting respiratory rate was higher than optimal, sitting at around 20 breaths per minute, when a healthier range for her age would be closer to 12 to 16. More concerning, after the mild exertion of the walk test, her breathing rate spiked dramatically and took over 8 minutes to recover to near resting levels. Her doctor explained that these weren't just numbers. They were indicators. They revealed that Margaret's cardiovascular system, her muscular endurance, and her cellular energy production were all functioning below where they should be. In essence, her body was aging faster than it needed to. So what exactly is happening when our breathing patterns change with age? At the most basic level, breathing serves one critical purpose: delivering oxygen to your cells and removing carbon dioxide waste. But the efficiency of this process depends on a complex orchestra of systems working in harmony. It requires healthy lungs with elastic, functional tissue. It requires a strong diaphragm and intercostal muscles to expand and contract your chest. It requires a cardiovascular system capable of transporting that oxygen through your blood to every tissue. And it requires healthy mitochondria within your cells, the tiny power plants that use that oxygen to produce energy. When any part of this system starts to decline, your breathing patterns reveal it. As we age, several things typically happen. Lung tissue naturally loses some of its elasticity. much like a balloon that's been inflated and deflated thousands of times. The muscles involved in breathing, particularly the diaphragm, can weaken if they're not regularly challenged. The rib cage can become stiffer, reducing the chest's ability to fully expand. At a cellular level, mitochondrial function often declines, meaning your cells become less efficient at using the oxygen they receive. All of these factors combine to create a breathing pattern that's faster, shallower, and less efficient. Your body compensates for reduced oxygen delivery by breathing more frequently, but this compensation comes at a cost. Rapid, shallow breathing is metabolically expensive, creates more oxidative stress, and contributes to a state of chronic low-level physiological strain. But here's where the science becomes truly fascinating. Researchers have discovered that breathing patterns aren't just a passive reflection of aging. They're an active contributor to it. There's a measurable difference between people who maintain deep, slow, efficient breathing patterns as they age and those who don't. Studies tracking large groups of older adults over many years have found that individuals with slower resting respiratory rates, typically between 10 and 14 breaths per minute, have significantly better outcomes. They have lower rates of cardiovascular disease. They maintain better cognitive function. They report higher energy levels and better quality of life. They even live longer. One landmark study found that for every additional breath per minute above the optimal range, there was a measurable increase in mortality risk over a 10-year period. Even more compelling is the research on respiratory recovery time. This measures how quickly your breathing returns to normal after exertion. Think of it as a stress test for your entire metabolic system. People with fast recovery times, those whose breathing normalizes within 2 to 3 minutes after moderate activity, show biological markers of younger cellular age. Their telomeres, the protective caps on the ends of chromosomes that shorten with age, are longer. Their inflammatory markers are lower. Their cardiovascular fitness scores are higher. In contrast, those with slow recovery times, taking 5, 8, or even 10 minutes to catch their breath after minor exertion, show accelerated biological aging across multiple measures. Let's return to Margaret. When her doctor explained all of this, Margaret felt a mix of emotions. There was worry, certainly, but also something unexpected: relief. For the first time, someone had given her concrete evidence that what she was experiencing wasn't inevitable. It wasn't just being 68. It was a modifiable condition. Her doctor developed a plan, and it wasn't complicated. It focused on 3 main areas: improving lung capacity, strengthening respiratory muscles, and enhancing overall cardiovascular fitness. Margaret started with the simplest intervention: conscious breathing exercises. Every morning and evening, she would sit comfortably and practice diaphragmatic breathing, also called belly breathing. She would place one hand on her chest and one on her abdomen, then breathe in slowly through her nose, making sure her belly rose more than her chest. She'd hold for a moment, then exhale slowly through pursed lips. Just 5 minutes, twice a day. It felt strange at first, almost too simple to be effective, but within 2 weeks, she noticed she felt calmer, more centered, and her resting breath naturally began to slow. Next, she added in pursed lip breathing during any activity that made her breathless. Instead of gasping for air when climbing stairs, she would consciously breathe in through her nose for 2 counts, then out through pursed lips for 4 counts. This technique helped her control her breathing, prevented the shallow panting that made breathlessness worse, and trained her respiratory muscles to work more efficiently. But the most transformative part of her plan was regular, gentle cardiovascular exercise. Margaret rejoined her water aerobics class, but with a new mindset. She wasn't there to keep up with everyone else or to push herself to exhaustion. She was there to challenge her cardiovascular and respiratory systems gradually and consistently. She also started walking, beginning with just 10 minutes a day on flat ground, then slowly adding time and gentle inclines. The goal wasn't speed or distance. The goal was to regularly elevate her breathing and heart rate to a moderate level, sustain it, and then allow her body to recover. Over time, This trained her entire system to become more efficient. After 6 months, Margaret returned for follow-up testing. The results were remarkable. Her resting respiratory rate had dropped to 14 breaths per minute. After the same 6-minute walk test that had left her breathless before, her breathing now recovered to baseline in under 4 minutes. But more than the numbers, Margaret felt the difference in her daily life. Stairs were no longer a challenge. Playing with her grandchildren was joyful again, not exhausting. She had energy in the evenings instead of collapsing on the couch. She felt, in her own words, like she'd turned back the clock by 10 years. So what can you do with this knowledge? First, become aware of your own breathing. Right now, as you're listening to this, notice your breath. Are you breathing from your chest or your belly? Is your breath shallow and rapid or deep and slow? Check your resting respiratory rate when you're calm and seated. Count how many full breath cycles, in and out, you take in 1 minute. If it's consistently above 16 or 18, that's a signal worth paying attention to. Second, practice diaphragmatic breathing daily. It costs nothing, requires no equipment, and can be done anywhere. Sit or lie down comfortably. Place one hand in your chest and one on your belly, and breathe deeply so that your belly hand rises while your chest hand stays relatively still. Do this for 5 to 10 minutes a day. This simple practice strengthens your diaphragm, increases your lung capacity, lowers your stress response, and trains your body to breathe more efficiently. Third, incorporate regular cardiovascular activity. Walking, swimming, cycling, dancing, anything that elevates your heart rate and makes you breathe a bit harder. Start where you are. If 5 minutes is all you can do, start there. The key is consistency and gradual progression. Over time, your respiratory system will adapt. It will become stronger, more efficient, more resilient. Fourth, pay attention to your recovery. After climbing stairs or walking briskly, notice how long it takes for your breathing to return to normal. If it's taking many minutes, or if you feel like you can't catch your breath, that's valuable information to share with your doctor. It might indicate an underlying issue that needs attention, or it might simply mean your fitness needs work. Your breath is the most intimate connection between your body and the world around you. Every inhale brings in life-sustaining oxygen. Every exhale releases waste and tension. But beyond this basic exchange, your breathing is also a remarkably sensitive instrument, constantly measuring and revealing the state of your internal health. It reflects the efficiency of your heart, the strength of your muscles, the health of your cells, and the pace at which your body is aging. And unlike so many aspects of aging that feel beyond our control, your breathing is something you can directly influence every single day. The way you breathe right now is telling a story about your biological age. But the beautiful truth is, you have the power to change that story. With awareness, with practice, with consistent effort, you can train your respiratory system to function like that of someone years younger. You can slow your resting breath, speed your recovery, increase your capacity, and in doing so, you can actually slow the aging process itself. Every deep, intentional breath you take is an investment in a longer, healthier, more vibrant life. Thank you for joining us on Elderly Discoveries. Here's to breathing deeply, living fully, and aging gracefully, one breath at a time.